The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, and it changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. Commander Sam Carter stood in the communications center of Earth's United Space Command, reading the words on the screen for the third time. The translation software had done its job perfectly, but the meaning still felt unreal. The Galactic Council, a governing body that controlled thousands of star systems across the galaxy, had summoned humanity to appear before them. "They're treating us like children called to the principal's office," said Dr. Lisa Monroe, the chief science advisor who stood beside him. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed concern. Sam nodded slowly. "The tone is clear. They expect us to come crawling." It had been 2 years since humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. In that time, they had explored dozens of nearby systems and encountered evidence of alien civilizations. But direct contact had been limited to brief exchanges with traders and travelers. This was different. This was official. The summons gave humanity 30 days to send representatives to a place called Nexus Prime, where the Council held their meetings. The document listed dozens of rules about proper behavior, acceptable gifts, and required shows of respect. It read like a manual for servants meeting their masters. Sam turned to face the others in the room. Captain Jack Torres, the military assigned to the diplomatic mission, stood with his arms crossed. Ambassador Grace, the senior diplomat who had spent 40 years negotiating on behalf of Earth, sat quietly in her chair with a thoughtful expression. "What do you think?" Sam asked her. Grace took a moment before answering. "I think they've done this many times before. The language, the demands, the timeline, it's all designed to make us feel small and rushed. They want us off balance before we even arrive." "Then we don't let that happen," Jack said firmly. "We go in with our heads high and our eyes open." Sam agreed. He had served in the military for 20 years before becoming a diplomat. He knew what it felt like to face a stronger enemy. He also knew that strength came in many forms, and courage was not about the size of your weapons. The preparations took 2 weeks. The diplomatic vessel Horizon was equipped with the best technology Earth had to offer. It was not a warship, but it was fast and well protected. The crew was small, just 50 people chosen for their skills and calm under pressure. Lisa spent the journey studying everything humanity knew about the Council. The information was limited, gathered from traders and scattered records found on abandoned outposts. The Council had existed for over 5,000 years. It included hundreds of species, though only a dozen held real power. New species were expected to join as junior members, accepting whatever terms the Council offered. "No one has ever refused," Lisa explained during a briefing. "At least, no one who survived to tell about it." "That's a comforting thought," Jack muttered. Sam looked at his team. "We're not going there to start a war, but we're also not going there to surrender. We'll listen to what they have to say and we'll respond with dignity. Whatever happens, we represent all of humanity. We don't bow." The journey through faster-than-light space took 12 days. When the Horizon dropped back into normal space, the view through the windows took everyone's breath away. Nexus Prime was not a planet. It was a station, but calling it that felt like calling an ocean a puddle. The structure was massive beyond imagination, a ring of metal and light that could have held 100 Earths inside its curve. Ships of every size and shape moved around it like insects around a hive. "How old is this place?" someone whispered. "Older than human civilization," Lisa answered quietly. "Maybe older than life on Earth." The Horizon received docking instructions and followed them carefully. Sam watched through the window as they approached, feeling the weight of the moment. Humanity was about to step onto the galactic stage, and the audience was not friendly. The docking bay they were assigned was functional but plain. No welcoming committee waited for them, no signs of respect or curiosity. A single alien official stood near the entrance, holding a data device and looking bored. Sam led his team down the ramp. The official barely glanced at them before speaking in a flat tone that the translator rendered as cold and dismissive. "You are the humans. You will follow me. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not touch anything. Do not make eye contact with council members. You will wait until called." Jack's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Sam simply nodded and gestured for the team to follow. The corridors of Nexus Prime were crowded with aliens of every description. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some floated in anti-gravity fields. Some wore elaborate robes, while others wore nothing at all. And every single one of them looked at the humans with expressions that ranged from curiosity to contempt. Sam kept his pace steady and his expression neutral. He had faced hostile crowds before in war zones and disaster areas and political summits. This was no different. Show no fear. Show no weakness. Let them wonder what you're thinking. They were led to a waiting area outside the grand chamber where the council met. Other delegations sat in groups, speaking quietly or simply staring at nothing. The humans were given seats in the corner, the worst position in the room. Grace sat down with perfect poise, as if she were at a garden party rather than an alien tribunal. "They want us to feel unwelcome. That means they're worried about something." "Worried about us?" Lisa asked. "Maybe, or maybe worried about what we represent." Grace smiled slightly. "A new piece on the board that doesn't know the rules. That can be dangerous." They waited for 6 hours. No food was offered, no water, no comfort of any kind. Sam used the time to observe, to learn, to prepare. He watched how other species behaved, who showed respect to whom, where the real power seemed to flow. Finally, a door opened, and a voice announced that the human delegation would now be received. Sam stood and straightened his uniform. His team rose with him, their faces calm and ready. They walked through the massive doors into a chamber that seemed to stretch forever. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in tiered rows, all looking down at the small group of humans in the center. At the highest point sat the High Arbiter, a creature named whose species Sam did not recognize. His voice echoed through the chamber, cold and powerful. "Humanity, you have been granted the privilege of appearing before the Galactic Council. We will now inform you of the conditions required for your acceptance into civilized society. You will listen carefully. When we are finished, you will accept." Sam said nothing. He simply stood and waited. And in the silence, High Arbiter felt something he had not felt in centuries. Uncertainty. The Grand Chamber fell silent as High Arbiter raised one of his 4 arms. The gesture commanded absolute attention, and every being in the room obeyed without question. Every being except the 5 humans standing in the center of the floor. Sam Carter kept his eyes forward, his posture straight but relaxed. Beside him, his team waited with the same calm patience. They had agreed on the journey here that they would show respect but never submission. There was a difference, and they would make sure the council understood it. His voice filled the chamber once more. "Humanity is a young species. You have only recently discovered the ability to travel between stars. You know nothing of galactic politics, galactic trade, or galactic law. You are infants stumbling into a room full of adults." A ripple of amusement passed through the assembled delegates. Sam heard clicks and hisses that his translator identified as laughter. "Therefore," continued, "the Council has prepared a list of requirements that humanity must accept before being granted provisional membership. These requirements are not negotiable. They are not suggestions. They are the price of your survival." A holographic display appeared in the air before the humans, showing text in their own language. Sam read the first line and felt his stomach tighten. "Requirement 1, announced. Humanity will immediately surrender all military vessels to Council control. All weapons programs will be dismantled under Council supervision. Humanity will maintain no armed forces beyond basic planetary security." Dr. Lisa Monroe's hand twitched slightly, but her face remained still. Requirement 2. Humanity will provide 10% of its population as a labor workforce for council projects. Workers will be assigned based on council needs and will serve terms of no less than 20 standard years. Jack Torres exhaled slowly through his nose. Sam could feel the anger radiating from him like heat. Requirement 3. Humanity will share all scientific research and technological developments with the Council without restriction or compensation. All human innovations become Council property. Requirement 4. Humanity will accept the appointment of a Council governor to oversee Earth's government. The governor will have final authority on all matters of policy and law. Requirement 5. Paused, and something like pleasure entered his voice. Humanity will formally acknowledge their inferior status and accept permanent placement at the lowest tier of the species hierarchy. Humans will show proper deference to all senior species at all times. The display flickered and disappeared, looked down at the humans with eyes that held no warmth. You have heard the requirements. You will now accept them. Silence filled the chamber. The alien delegates watched with expressions of boredom, amusement, or mild curiosity. They had seen this scene play out hundreds of times before. Young species always resisted at first. They always complained and bargained and begged, and they always accepted in the end because there was no other choice. Sam stepped forward. His voice was calm and clear. High Arbiter, my delegation requests time to consult before providing our formal response. His expression shifted slightly. This was not the usual reaction. Most species began their surrender immediately, trying to negotiate better terms even as they admitted defeat. You may have until tomorrow, said. But understand this, human. There is nothing to discuss. You will accept these requirements or you will face the consequences. We understand, Sam replied. We will return tomorrow with our answer. He turned and walked toward the exit, his team falling in behind him. The delegates watched in silence, uncertain what to make of this strange behavior. Counselor, a massive reptilian warrior from a species known for their brutality, let out a barking laugh. Look at them run. They will cry through the night and come crawling back in the morning. Counselor, a slender being with silver skin and calculating eyes, did not laugh. She studied the humans as they left, noting their posture, their expressions, their complete lack of visible fear. Something about them troubled her. In the waiting area, the humans said nothing until they reached the privacy of their quarters. The room was small and clearly designed to remind them of their low status, but it was secure from listening devices. Lisa had checked 3 times. Labor workforce, Jack said finally, his voice tight with controlled fury. They want to take our people as slaves. Not slaves, Grace corrected quietly. Servants. They've found polite words for it, but yes, that's exactly what they want. Sam stood by the window, looking out at the endless activity of Nexus Prime. Ships came and went. Beings of 1,000 different shapes went about their business, and somewhere in this vast machine, someone had decided that humanity should become property. What do we do? Lisa asked. We can't accept this, but can we refuse? We can refuse, Sam said without turning around. The question is what happens after. Grace folded her hands in her lap. I've been a diplomat for 40 years. I've negotiated with dictators and terrorists and corporations that would sell their own mothers for profit, and I've never seen demands like this. They're not asking us to join their society. They're asking us to disappear into it. Then we don't disappear, Jack said. Sam turned to face his team. Before we left Earth, I spoke with the president. She gave me one instruction, one rule that I was never to break, no matter what. What was it? Lisa asked. Sam's expression was firm but calm. Never surrender our freedom, no matter the cost. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Grace nodded slowly. Then we know what we have to do. They spent the night preparing, not preparing to negotiate, not preparing to compromise, preparing to say the one word that the Galactic Council had not heard in 3,000 years. No. When morning came, a message arrived summoning them back to the Grand Chamber. Sam gathered his team and led them through the corridors of Nexus Prime. The same alien official escorted them, the same contempt in his eyes. But something had changed in the humans overnight. They walked differently now. There was a weight to their steps, a certainty that had not been there before. The Grand Chamber was even more crowded than the day before. Word had spread that the new species would be giving their response, and many wanted to watch the inevitable submission. High Arbiter looked down from his elevated position. Humanity, you have had time to consider. You will now accept the requirements. Sam stepped forward to the center of the chamber. He looked up at, then slowly turned to look at the hundreds of delegates surrounding him. His gaze was steady and unafraid. High Arbiter, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I am prepared to give our response. Then speak, commanded. Sam straightened his shoulders. We have read your requirements carefully, we have discussed them thoroughly, and we have reached a unanimous decision. He paused, and in that pause, the entire chamber seemed to hold its breath. Humanity rejects every single demand. For a moment there was no sound at all, then chaos erupted. Advisor, an ancient being who had served on the council for longer than human civilization had existed, leaned forward in his seat. He looked at the human standing alone in the center of the storm, and he felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Respect. The Grand Chamber erupted into noise. Delegates shouted in 100 different languages, their voices mixing into a storm of disbelief and outrage. Some rose from their seats. Others pointed at the humans with gestures that needed no translation. The word impossible echoed from every corner of the room. High Arbiter struck his podium 3 times, and slowly, reluctantly, the chamber fell silent. His eyes fixed on Commander Sam Carter with an intensity that would have made most beings tremble. You reject our requirements, said slowly, as if testing the words. All of them. All of them, Sam confirmed. You understand what you are saying. I understand perfectly. Leaned forward. Then explain yourself, human. Explain why your insignificant species believes it has the right to refuse the Galactic Council. Sam had prepared for this moment. He had rehearsed his words, refined them, made sure each one carried the weight it needed to carry. Now he spoke clearly and without hesitation. Requirement 1 asks us to surrender our military and dismantle our weapons. We refuse. Humanity has survived countless threats throughout our history. Wars, plagues, disasters beyond imagination. We survived because we protected ourselves. We will not leave ourselves defenseless in a galaxy we do not yet understand. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Counselor snorted with contempt, but he did not interrupt. Requirement 2 asks us to provide our people as laborers. We refuse. Human beings are not property. They are not resources to be allocated or assigned. Every human life has value, and no human will be traded like cargo for the benefit of others. Grace stood behind Sam, her expression proud and calm. She had helped him craft these words, drawing on decades of experience with difficult negotiations. Requirement 3 asks us to share all our knowledge without compensation. We refuse. Knowledge is earned through effort and sacrifice. We are willing to share, to cooperate, to learn from others and teach what we know. But we will not be stripped of our innovations simply because we are new. Dr. Lisa Monroe watched the reactions of the delegates. Some showed anger, some showed confusion, but a few, just a few, showed something else. Interest, perhaps even admiration. Requirement 4 asks us to accept a foreign governor over our world. We refuse. Earth is our home. It belongs to humanity and humanity alone. We will not surrender our right to govern ourselves, our right to make our own decisions, our right to choose our own future." Sam paused, letting the words settle. Then he spoke the final rejection. Requirement 5 asks us to accept that we are inferior. We refuse. Humanity does not believe that any species is superior to another. We do not bow because someone tells us to bow. We do not kneel because someone tells us to kneel. We stand as equals or we stand alone. The silence that followed was heavier than any noise could have been. Sam stood in the center of it, calm and unmoved. High Arbiter finally spoke, his voice cold with barely controlled anger. "You are fools. Do you understand the power of the Galactic Council? We control 1,000 star systems. Our fleets number in the millions. We have crushed civilizations older and stronger than yours." "I don't doubt it," Sam replied. "But crushing civilizations is not the same as defeating them. Humanity has been conquered before. We have been enslaved, oppressed, beaten down by those who thought they were stronger, and every single time we have risen again. We do not stay defeated." Counselor slammed his fist on his desk. "Empty words from a weak species. Your little world would burn in a day if we chose to attack." Captain Jack Torres stepped forward to stand beside Sam. His voice was calm, but carried the steel of a soldier who had seen real combat. "Perhaps, but how many ships would you lose taking it? How many soldiers? And after Earth, what about the colonies? What about the outposts? What about the ships we've scattered across a dozen systems? You might burn our world, but you'd never kill our people. We'd keep fighting. We'd fight until there was nothing left to fight with, and then we'd find something else." Counselor raised a hand, her silver skin catching the light. "This is pointless. The Council will simply blockade your systems. No trade, no resources, no contact with the rest of the galaxy. Your species will wither and die in isolation." Sam turned to face her. "We've considered that possibility, and we've prepared for it." "Prepared how?" asked, a hint of concern entering her voice. Jack answered before Sam could speak. "In the 2 years since we achieved faster-than-light travel, we've mapped 17 different routes out of Council space. We've found systems you don't control, resources you don't monitor, species you don't even know exist. Your blockade would hurt us, yes, but it wouldn't stop us." The chamber buzzed with shocked whispers. 17 routes. Species the Council didn't know. How had these primitive newcomers accomplished such things? High Arbiter raised his voice above the noise. "You are bluffing. You must be bluffing." "Test us," Sam said simply. "Push us into a corner and see what happens, or you could try something different." "Different?" Eyes narrowed. "Treat us as partners instead of subjects. Work with us instead of trying to control us. We came here hopping for cooperation, for mutual benefit, for a chance to learn and grow alongside other civilizations. We didn't come here to surrender, but we didn't come here to make enemies either." The chamber fell quiet as delegates processed what they had just witnessed. No species had ever spoken to the Council this way. No species had ever rejected every demand and offered friendship in the same breath. Advisor rose from his seat. He was ancient, his body frail but his presence commanding. When he spoke, everyone listened. "High Arbiter, I have served this council for 12,000 years. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have seen countless species brought into our fold through fear and intimidation. And in all that time, I have never seen anything like this." Turn to face him. "What is your point, Advisor?" "My point is that perhaps we should listen to what they are really saying. They are not our enemies. They are not a threat. They are simply refusing to be our servants. Is that really so wrong?" Snarled, "It undermines everything the Council stands for." "Does it?" asked mildly. "Or does it simply challenge us to be better than we have been?" The chamber erupted into argument once more. Delegates shouted at each other, at the humans, at the careful order of the Council had cracked, and through that crack, something new was beginning to emerge. Sam gathered his team and spoke quietly. "We've said what we needed to say. Now we wait and see what happens." Grace nodded. "We've planted a seed. Whether it grows depends on them." As they left the grand chamber, Sam noticed that several delegates were watching them with new expressions. Not contempt, not anger, curiosity, perhaps even hope. High Arbiter called for an emergency session, something that had not happened in 3,000 years. The council was in chaos, and for the first time in living memory, no one knew what would happen next. All because 5 humans had done the one thing that no one thought possible. They had said no. The emergency session lasted 14 hours. Behind closed doors, the most powerful beings in the galaxy argued about what to do with a species that most of them had never heard of until a week ago. Commander Sam Carter and his team were not allowed to attend. Instead, they waited in their quarters, monitoring what little information they could gather and preparing for whatever came next. "The council is divided," Lisa reported, studying data on her tablet. "Our contacts say there are at least 3 different factions now. One wants immediate military action, one wants to negotiate, and one wants to pretend this never happened and hope we go away." "That third option sounds optimistic," Jack said dryly. "It also sounds impossible," Grace added. "Word has already spread. Our rejection is the biggest news in council space. Every species is talking about it." Sam stood by the window, watching the lights of Nexus Prime. "That's exactly what we wanted. This was never just about us refusing their demands. It was about showing everyone else that refusing was possible." A message alert chimed, and Lisa looked at her tablet. "We've received a secure communication request. Someone named Advisor wants to meet privately." Sam turned from the window. "The ancient one who spoke in our defense, accept it. Let's hear what he has to say." An hour later, Advisor arrived at their quarters. Up close, he looked even older than he had appeared in the grand chamber. His skin was thin and pale, his movements slow and careful. But his eyes held the sharp intelligence of someone who had survived 12,000 years of galactic politics. "Thank you for seeing me," said as he settled into a chair. "I must speak quickly. I am being watched, and there are those who would not approve of this meeting." "We appreciate the risk you're taking," Sam replied. "What do you want to tell us?" Was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I have watched the council for longer than most species have existed. I have seen it do great things and terrible things. In the beginning, it was created to bring peace and cooperation to the galaxy, but over time it became something else. A machine for control, a system that feeds on the submission of others." "We noticed," Jack said. "What you may not have noticed is that you are not alone. There are many species who joined the council under the same demands you rejected. They accepted because they saw no other choice, but they have never forgotten what was taken from them." Grace leaned forward with interest. "Are you saying there's internal resistance?" "Not open resistance, not yet, but hope. Quiet, hidden hope that someday things might change." Looked at Sam directly. "You have given them that hope. Your rejection has spread across the galaxy like fire. Species that have been silent for centuries are beginning to talk, to question, to wonder if perhaps they made the wrong choice long ago." "That's good to hear," Sam said, "but it doesn't help us much if the council decides to make an example of us." Nodded gravely. "That is why I came to warn you. The faction calling for military action is stronger than you might think. Counselor has been pushing hard for an immediate strike against Earth. He argues that if you are not crushed quickly, others will follow your example." "What are our chances if it comes to war?" Lisa asked. "In a direct conflict, poor. The Council's combined fleets could overwhelm your defenses within weeks." Paused. "But's own military advisors are not as confident as he is. Your weapons technology surprised them. Your ships are faster than expected, your tactics more sophisticated. A war would not be the easy victory he promises." Sam exchanged glances with his team. We've been preparing for this possibility longer than anyone knows." "I suspected as much," smiled slightly. "There is also Counselor to consider. She leads the trade guilds, and her networks have already reported that human goods are appearing on black markets throughout Council space. Your technology, your art, your music. It's highly valued. A war would disrupt that trade and does not like disruptions to her profits." "So we have one enemy and one potential ally," Grace summarized. "What about the others?" "Most are undecided. They are waiting to see which way the wind blows." Stood slowly, preparing to leave. "I have told you what I can. What happens next depends on choices yet to be made." He paused at the door and looked back at Sam. "I have lived a very long time, Commander. I have seen empires rise and fall, heroes triumph and fail. And in all that time I have never seen anything quite like your species. You are stubborn, unpredictable, and absolutely convinced that you deserve to be free. It is either your greatest strength or your greatest weakness. Perhaps both." After left, the team discussed their options. The situation was dangerous but not hopeless. They had allies they hadn't known about, weaknesses in the Council they could exploit, and a galaxy full of oppressed species watching to see what happened next. "We need to reach out to those other species," Sam decided. "The ones who accepted the Council's demands but never forgot. If we can build an alliance, we won't be standing alone." "That's a lot harder than it sounds," Lisa pointed out. "We don't know who they are, how to contact them, or whether they'd risk helping us." "Actually," Jack said slowly, "we might have already started that process. Remember those 17 routes we mapped? We didn't just find empty systems. We found civilizations. Small ones, hidden ones, species that escaped Council notice or fled from Council control." Sam nodded. "I know. I've been in contact with some of them since before we left Earth." The others stared at him in surprise. Grace recovered first. "You've been building a secret alliance this whole time." "Not a formal alliance, just conversations, possibilities, but now it's time to make those possibilities real." Over the next 2 days, the Council continued to debate while the humans worked quietly behind the scenes. Sam sent encrypted messages through channels the Council couldn't monitor. Jack coordinated with human ships stationed throughout nearby space. Lisa analyzed Council politics, identifying potential sympathizers. Grace drafted proposals for a new kind of galactic cooperation. Then the Council announced its decision. The chamber was called to order, and High Arbiter delivered the verdict with cold satisfaction. The Galactic Council has voted to impose a complete blockade on human space. No trade, no communication, no travel. Humanity will be isolated until they accept our requirements. Sam received the news without surprise. They had expected something like this. What they had not expected was what came next. "Furthermore," continued, "any species that provides aid to humanity will face the same penalties. This blockade will be enforced by Council fleets, beginning immediately." The message was clear. Humanity was being cut off from the galaxy, and anyone who tried to help them would share their fate. Sam looked at his team and smiled. "I think it's time to show them what humanity can really do." He activated his communicator and sent a single word to every contact he had made over the past 2 years. Now, 3 hours later, Ambassador Grace arrived at Nexus Prime with a fleet of 50 ships. Not warships, but trading vessels, science vessels, diplomatic vessels. And they were not alone. Representatives from 12 different species stood with her. Species that had secretly been talking to humanity for months. Species that had accepted the Council's demands long ago and regretted it ever since. Species that were ready to say no. The blockade had barely begun, and it was already falling apart. High Arbiter looked at the screens showing the growing fleet, and felt something he had not felt in 3,000 years. Fear. The Grand Chamber had never been so crowded. Every seat was filled, and thousands more watched through screens across Nexus Prime and beyond. The news had spread faster than light itself. Humanity was not alone, and the Galactic Council was facing something it had never faced before. Commander Sam Carter stood in the center of the chamber once more, but this time he was not surrounded by contempt. This time, he was flanked by representatives from 12 different species, each one standing tall and unafraid. Ambassador Grace stepped forward to speak on their behalf. Her voice was calm and steady, carrying the weight of decades of diplomatic experience. High Arbiter, honored delegates, we come before you not as enemies, but as friends who seek a better future. The species standing with humanity today have each carried the burden of the Council's demands for centuries. They accepted because they believed they had no choice, but humanity has shown them that choice always exists. The chamber buzzed with nervous whispers. Counselor leaned forward, his reptilian eyes fixed on the gathering below. "This is rebellion," he growled. "This is treason against the Council." "No," said a small being with blue skin and golden eyes. His name was Prefect, and he represented a species called the who had served the Council for 800 years. "This is freedom, something we forgot was possible until these humans reminded us." One by one, the representatives of the 12 species spoke. They told stories of what they had lost when they accepted the Council's demands, scientists whose discoveries were taken without credit, workers who died in service to projects that never benefited their own worlds, leaders who were forced to obey governors they had never chosen. Some delegates in the chamber looked away in shame. Others listened with growing unease. For the first time, they were hearing the true cost of the system they had built. High Arbiter raised his hand for silence. When he spoke, his voice was cold but controlled. "You have made your position clear, but understand this. The Council has ruled this galaxy for 5,000 years. We have the power to crush any resistance, no matter how large. If you continue on this path, you will be destroyed." Sam Carter stepped forward. He looked up without fear or hatred, only calm determination. "High Arbiter, humanity has faced destruction before. We have stood on the edge of extinction more times than I can count, and every time we found a way to survive, not because we were the strongest but because we refused to give up." He turned to address the entire chamber. "We didn't come here to destroy the Council. We came here to change it. The galaxy doesn't need another war. It needs a better way forward. It needs cooperation based on respect, not fear. Partnership based on equality, not submission." "Pretty words," Counselor said from her seat. Her silver skin reflected the lights of the chamber as she studied the humans with calculating eyes. "But what exactly are you proposing?" "A new charter," Sam replied. "New principles for how the Council operates. Principles that protect the rights of all species, not just the powerful ones." Dr. Lisa Monroe handed him a data device, and he projected its contents for everyone to see. Principle 1. No species shall be required to surrender its sovereignty as a condition of membership. Every world governs itself. Principle 2. No species shall be enslaved, conscripted, or forced to provide labor against its will. Every being is free. Principle 3. Knowledge and technology shall be shared through fair trade and mutual agreement, not demanded as tribute. Principle 4. All species are equal members of the Council with equal rights and equal voices. There is no hierarchy. Principle 5. The Council exists to serve its members, not to rule them. Its purpose is cooperation, not control. The chamber was silent as the implications sank in. These principles would transform everything the Council had been for thousands of years. Counselor stood abruptly. "This is madness. You would tear down everything our ancestors built." "Your ancestors built a system of oppression," Captain Jack Torres replied firmly. "We're offering to build something better." "And if we refuse," demanded, "if we choose to fight instead?" Sam met his gaze steadily. "Then you'll have a war on your hands, not just against humanity, but against every species standing here today, and against every other species across the galaxy that's watching this moment and hopping for change. You might win, but the cost would be more than you can imagine. The silence stretched on, looked around the chamber, searching for support, but found only uncertainty. Even his own military advisors would not meet his eyes. Advisor rose from his seat. His ancient voice filled the chamber. I have served this council for 12,000 years. I remember when it was founded, when the first species came together in hope of building something greater than themselves. Somewhere along the way, we lost that hope. We replaced it with fear and control, telling ourselves it was necessary for order. He looked at the humans standing in the center of the chamber. These beings have given us a chance to remember what we were supposed to be. They have offered us friendship instead of war, cooperation instead of conflict. I believe we should accept that offer. A delegate from a species Sam did not recognize stood up. I agree with Advisor. My people have waited centuries for this moment. We support the new charter. Another stood, then another. One by one, voices rose across the chamber declaring support for change. Not all of them, not even most of them at first, but enough. Enough to make it clear that the old order was cracking. Counselor watched the tide turning and made her calculation. She had survived in galactic politics by knowing when to adapt. This was one of those moments. The trade guilds support the proposed reforms, she announced. Continued conflict is bad for business. Cooperation offers better opportunities for all. High Arbiter sat in silence, watching his power slip away with every voice that spoke. He could order the fleet to attack. He could try to crush this rebellion by force. But looking at the faces around him, he knew it would only delay the inevitable. After a long moment, he spoke. The council will vote on the proposed charter. The vote took 3 hours. When it was finished, the results were displayed for all to see. The new charter had passed. The chamber erupted into sound, some celebrating, some protesting, but most simply stunned by what had just happened. In a single day, the Galactic Council had been transformed from an empire into an alliance. Sam Carter found himself surrounded by delegates wanting to shake his hand to thank him, to ask questions about humanity and Earth, and how they had found the courage to refuse. He answered as best he could, but his mind was already thinking about what came next. Grace appeared at his side. We did it. I can hardly believe we actually did it. We started something, Sam corrected gently. Now comes the hard part, building the future we promised. As the celebration continued around them, Advisor made his way through the crowd to stand before Sam. His ancient eyes held a warmth that Sam had not seen before. You have given the galaxy something it lost long ago, said. Hope. I had forgotten what it felt like. Sam smiled. Hope is something humanity has plenty of. We've survived too much to ever run out. The human delegation left Nexus Prime the following day. Their ship, the Horizon, was escorted by vessels from a dozen different worlds, each one a symbol of the new alliance that had been born. As they entered faster-than-light space, heading home to Earth with news that would change everything, Sam looked out at the stars and thought about how far they had come. Humanity had been summoned to the Galactic Council as inferior beings expected to submit. They had refused. They had stood firm. And in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history. Not through war, not through weapons, through the simple, powerful act of saying no. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other species heard the story and began to believe that perhaps they too could choose their own destiny. The galaxy would never be the same.